And just like I said, the pawn distracting the rook and bishop definitely paid off. Because if one person, the pawn, on a chessboard can distract two major players with a small group, that helps out the battlefield tremendously. And to make things even better for our side, when the rook and bishop get impatient because one measly pawn is able to stop them, hold them back, they're going to get pretty angry. And so, they might make unwise decisions. And that is exactly what happened to Kisui's army in this chapter. So you remember what I've been saying for the past couple chapters. One of the big things that's probably going to happen on the left wing of Quinn is that Kisui's army is going to get flanked. Shin, or whoever, a part of the center army, is going to come around and flank Kisui's army because he's going to probably have some of his men charge in because they're getting impatient. Remember, as I've said, you have it to where Zhao, they're on a timer. They got to get to go. They got to get there as quick as possible. They don't have time to sit here and wait for days upon days because time is ticking. But if it's not even go, it's also the fact that if you're fighting 5,000 people and you have 30,000 strong, obviously you're 30,000 strong. You're going to get very angry. They're going to get really pissed off if they can't take down a measly 5,000. And to make matters worse, it's not even the full 5,000. It's like 2,500, even less than that because of the way they're using their attack formations. So that's going to piss people off. It's going to piss off the 30,000 men. And some of them, the commanders, are going to get angry. They're going to charge in. Or they might send in their entire army to quickly wipe them out. Or underestimate them. And in this case, it wasn't necessarily Kisui's army underestimating Moten. That's not the case. Normally, in this case, you would think the 30,000 men would probably have underestimated Moten because there was only 5k. But that wasn't the case. Actually, what happened was that Kisui overestimated Moten. Moten's a really good leader, a good commander. But what he did wrong is he focused too much on Moten. If he did not do that, he would be in a fine state right now. What happened is that because of how Moten was reacting and how he was attacking his army, he was constantly focused on Moten and whatever action he was taking. And so he was no longer paying attention to everything else around him. His entire viewpoint was focused on Moten's army. He was no longer concerned with the possibility of a flank because of how Moten's army was reacting to some of his attacks. For instance, when they chased after him, another army would come in and just smack his army, and then they would get on the run, and then the army would get destroyed and all that wiped out, and then it'll be a rinse and repeat. And so, because of what he learned, was that he cannot just, keep sending in small forces to fight back or whatever. He has to send in a big group to wipe him out, because if he doesn't, it's just going to whittle down his forces, and he's going to lose a lot of men. He might still come on top, but he's probably going to lose over half his men if he continues to go along with what Moten was doing, the way he's taking the pacing of this battlefield. And so he was forced to focus all attention on Moten and then charge in with all 30k. Now, what this shows is that Moten did his job properly. He was never meant, as I said, to probably take down Kisui. He was never meant to. His entire objective was to stall 30,000 men. To stall them long enough for either the right wing to wipe out their stuff or Osun to wipe out his stuff in the center. While, Moten, he was distracting 30k. Because think about it, 5k can distract 30k. That is just great. That's an amazing feat, and that automatically helps out the other armies. Because they don't have 30,000 men on top of them beating the shit out of them. So 5k can hold off 30k, you're doing a damn good job. And so Moten, doing his job correctly, he made it to where Kisui focused all attention on him, and which in turn caused it to where Osun's center army popped up and flanked Kisui. So let's look at what Kisui could have done to fix this problem, how he could have avoided what happened in this chapter. Like I said, Kisui, what he did wasn't necessarily a problem. Like, what he did and reacted, I think he did some correct moves from where he was stationed. The only problem I see with his army was that some of his commanders was getting a little bit cocky, or they were getting hot-headed, and they charged in. That's what really happened. It wasn't necessarily Kisui, it was his commanders that kind of fucked up. But even then, it's understandable why a commander would react like that because of what Moten has been doing, the tactics he's been using. And so so, obviously, the big strong commander wants to go and is like, fuck this shit, I'm done, let's handle this. This cannot go on any longer. And so, the reaction was very human from the commander. That's how probably some people would react in that situation if you were fighting 5k people versus, like, you know, you had 30k on your side. So, even though that's kind of where the problem was at, the main thing is that Moten was just so good, and Kisui, he was so focused on Moten's, you know, entire movements, that he was just so overestimating Moten. And even then, it's probably correct to, you know, overestimate Moten, because he's already proved himself on the battlefield. So, Kisui's reaction was also understandable. But see, if he would have underestimated Moten, and he wouldn't have focused too much, and he would have kept maybe 2,000 to 5,000 men on his new left, you know, side, he probably could have avoided the flank that happened in this chapter. The thing is he didn't underestimate Moten. He needed to underestimate him, because if he would have probably have wiped out Moten. That's what happened. So, yeah, everything I've been talking about for the past couple chapters happened. Now, one of the big things I want to discuss here is the arrival of some of the center army onto the left side. This proves one big thing about how this war is being played out. Number one, let's look at the battlefield, the center army, for a second, okay? There is a lot of troops in the center on Quinn's side. But the thing is with the entire center portion of Osun's army actually going over to the left wing to help out Moten, this makes us realize something. Osun is like bait right now. He is bait for Riboku. As I said when the formation was first shown, with Osun being in the front, it's kind of like he's dangling himself like a piece of meat for everyone. He's like, look, I'm here. I'm not hiding. Come get me. Come get me. I'm right here. I'm not hiding behind anyone. I'm not in a mountain. I'm not in a fortress. I'm right here on the front lines. Come get me. You know where I'm at. And so everybody is going to be looking at Osun, because if they take him down, it's GG for Quinn's army. And as we know already from many arcs of Kingdom, we know that when a general falls or a commander, it can really shake up the battlefield. It can really just show who's going to win the fight. And so if Osun was to die, automatically it's like Quinn lost. Right there. They're done. And so, Osun being right there, it's kind of like, if you take me out, it's over. You win. And so, he is being bait right now, while the other sides are doing their own thing. And this is what I think is going on right now. At the end of the day, before this fight is said and done, I feel like Osun's entire forces, there's barely going to be anyone in center. And everybody's going to be on the left and right wing. Now, hear me out, okay? You know how the majority of Quinn's forces are in the middle, okay? The bulk of the forces are right there. You know, Shin's in the back and all of that. Now, I think this has been done in Kingdom before. I could be wrong, or I could be remembering another series. But, you know how the strategy is to where you lengthen out the entire front line? Like, okay, let's say you had 5,000 men, okay? And you make a big-ass long line. It's a very thin line, maybe like three soldiers back to back and all that, like, you know, in a line, okay? And it's just stretched out. It's really massively stretched out, okay? That would make the other side, it would appear like the army is massive. Like, there's just so much there, like, people would freak out. Like, they don't want to charge in, because that's crazy. They're waiting for the opponent to charge. I feel like that's what Osun is doing. He's making it to where his army appears to be large, but in reality, he might have the less amount of men on the battlefield. Okay, so let me explain a little bit more details with some clarity. As we know, Moten, he has 5k on his side. Now he just got reinforced with a lot of forces from the center. With the 5k starting there, I feel like before everything is done, the center might have maybe only 1,000 or 2,000 in it before the war is finished here. That means Osun has the least forces in the center, while everybody else is fighting on the left and right wing, and Riboku in the center won't initiate because he's expecting Osun to initiate. So, it's kind of like Osun has this massive force, he doesn't know where the other soldiers are behind him because he can't see it, because Osun has his entire line stretched out where it appears that he has a massive army. So, I feel like if Riboku was to understand this and attack Osun right now, most likely Quinn would lose. Quinn would get their asses beat. Because I feel like Osun is deliberately trying to make it to look like he has a lot of forces. Because if Riboku is to take the bait and attack Osun, automatically I think Quinn would lose, because Osen probably doesn't have the troops to protect himself, because he's sending everyone to the left or right. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah. Maybe it's not Moten we should be worrying about, because even though it appears that Moten had the least amount of forces, it seems like Osen might be that person before this arc is done. Now, besides that, let's talk about the situation with how everything that Moten has been doing, how impressive it is. As I've said, he's like a pawn in this battle, versus like rooks and, you know, bishops. That's kind of what Moten's role is right now. And his entire skill, his skill level has just surpassed all expectations. He's shown that he's a very intelligent individual in previous arcs, but the way he's displayed himself in this, being able to hold off against that many people by himself, using these hit and run tactics, it definitely is commendable, and he's definitely the key to victory, because if that side wins, automatically reinforces the center, Riboku will get, you know, flanked from the side. So yeah, good stuff in this chapter. So let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.